I've got a factory multi loaded in here of a bass with various articulations on the different parts. Let's switch to stack mode and I'll show you how it works. And before we jump in, let me give you a bit of a tour around the interface here. Now, stack mode is designed for creating splits and layers and crossfades between any or all of the 8 available parts. And like live mode, it responds to a single MIDI channel, and that makes it great for recording to a single track with access to all the various articulations that are loaded into the different parts. Now, stack mode can be used in one of 3 ways. We can switch between the different parts in this notes mode where it's based on the range of the keyboard. We can use the velocity mode where we switch between the parts based on the velocity range of the note being triggered. Or using MIDI control change messages, we set a CC and we can switch between the parts based on the value, the MIDI CC value that's being generated. We also have a preset menu here, and stack mode presets are used to save and recall the layout of the stack mode grid over here, not the actual patches that are loaded into each part or the MIDI CC assignments. And there's only a couple of presets here. We're not going to really use those, but it basically stores just the mappings here, not the actual sounds itself. So let's go back to notes mode. First thing we need to do is set the MIDI channel that we're going to respond to, and in this case, it defaults to any, but I'm going to put it to channel 1, but whatever suits you best. And this is where we set the MIDI CC value. I'm going to leave it at CC1, which is my mod wheel, and I'll get to that in a moment. And we have the power switch, of course, and we have a show menu for what we want to see in the regions that are loaded in here. I'm going to go show name and part number, or we can show just one or the other, but I'll leave it at that for now. Now, the stack mode grid is made up of 8 horizontal rows that you see here, and each is divided into 128 separate little tiny cells, each corresponding to the range of MIDI values. So let's get started. Now, you'll notice a couple of notes in red here, and that just indicates that key switching notes are assigned to those areas in the keyboard. And if we go to live mode, we'll see here the different key switch notes, and it's just letting us know that they're unavailable. So it's a nice visual reference. So we add parts by right-clicking on the grid. I'm going to click on this first grid, and I'm going to right-click, and we have a menu, and I'm going to add the first part, the full-range bass. And we can freely resize these regions. You can have more than one region on each of these horizontal parts, and we can shorten the range or extend it by dragging like that, and we drag in the upper corner to create fades. So for now, let's say I have this bass, and let's adjust the range. Okay, I only want it to go up to about there. So I'm going to drag it down. There we go. And now I'm going to load another part in over here. I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to add this staccato part. And there, let's resize it. And now I'll have the staccato starting at that place. I actually want the staccato to start a note earlier, so let's just shorten that a little bit. I want to get that F. A little bit more. There we go. So now when I play lower, I get the legato sound. And then it switches based on the key range here. So this is basic note switching. I'll try and put down a little part just to show you how cool this can be with just a simple setup like this with a legato and staccato sound. So just like that, you can hear how you can get some musical parts like that. Now let's look at doing a velocity switch. I'm going to switch to velocity mode. So in notes mode, we saw all the notes being triggered here. With velocity, this switches and we see the velocity range. So what I'm going to do is set this now so that I'm going to get the staccato articulation only when I get to a louder velocity. And you see here the little indicators here representing what velocity is being triggered. Let's get it a little bit lower than that, just so we can hear the staccato at a bit lower velocity. And let's put a little part down like that. And you can hear how you can get some really musical playable results just like that. Let's listen back. So That works great. Now let's look at the CC mode. And to do this, I'm going to switch instruments. So let me hide this for a moment. And I'm going to just delete that. And I have another instance of Trillion loaded up here. And let's bring that up. And let's put our link mode on. There we go. There we go. So here I have a couple of different synth sounds loaded in. And we'll go to stack mode. It's on. And I'll add the parts again. So let's start by adding the first part. And you'll see here that we can have crossfades. These are set already with crossfades because I was experimenting with them before the video started. But you just drag like that and create crossfades and lengthen them and shorten them however you want. I'm going to click under there and I'll add another part. Let's do that. And I can overlap them. And let's create a third one. I'll go over there. And we can have them on the same track if we want. Like, for example, I could put this part over here and have another part in the same horizontal row. There's no real reason to do that. I find it a little less confusing to have them on the separate rows. So now I can move that and have that ramp up. Let's try something like that. So now with my mod wheel, I'm going to move between the CC values because I have that set to CC1. And what's great about stack mode is there's also latch and trigger modes available. So let me right click. And I have trigger mode set, but you can trigger here wherever you want. So that's next 16th. This is the next bar. And this one I have set to next beat. And we have latch mode available, which we looked at in the live mode. It works the same way. But I'm just going to play with trigger modes now. These are arpeggiated sounds, so they'll stay in sync. And as I move my mod wheel up, you'll hear it switch to the other articulations, or in this case, the other sounds. In fact, I think I want to switch these around just for some variety. I'm going to put this one over here and have this one in the upper range of the CCs. And let's see what that sounds like. So you can really hear them crossfading. You hear both sounds at once. And of course, now they'll stay in sync when I trigger them as the groove is playing. So lots of fun creating crossfades like this. So that's a little overview of stack mode. We can use it based on note switching, velocity ranges, or MIDI CC ranges. We set up the zones here and we can adjust the part size by dragging the bottom corners and adjust the fade ins and outs by the top corners. Have fun, experiment with it. See you for more in the next video.